Today we are going to be packing for a June trip to Japan. It's gonna be hot, it's gonna be humid, and it's probably gonna be rainy as well, so let's go. Now, in case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com, and this channel is all about practical travel tips from someone who's been there, done that, so be sure to like and subscribe if that sounds like your kind of thing. So I'm going to show you everything that I'm gonna pack based on my research, and then we're gonna check back in at the end of my trip so I can show you exactly what I regret and all the things I wish I knew before I packed. So the first thing I always do is I wanna make sure I know the exact restrictions for my airline, because it really depends on each individual airline and you don't wanna be caught out with a different luggage allowance than what you're used to. Very luckily, on this flight, I am traveling with ANA, and I'm so used to European budget airlines that I truly cannot believe this. I get two checked bags for free. So that's incredible, really takes the weight off. And on this trip, I am going to be checking a bag just because I plan to do a lot of shopping. So just for ease of mind, I wanna make sure that I'm packing small. So I am still going to be packing just my little carry-on suitcase, but in anticipation for shopping once I get there, what I'm planning to do is I'm going to nest a smaller bag within that bag. So for that, I have this Nomad Lane bag that I love. It's actually a personal item, but it folds out like a suitcase. So I'm just basically gonna pack this and then put it inside of my larger carry-on, and then I'm gonna check that, and worst comes to worst, if I need to, then I can just buy another suitcase while I'm there. I have heard that Ginza Karen is the go-to place to get a cheap suitcase rather than some of the bigger shops that are more well-known like Don Quixote, so just keep that in mind. So I'm gonna bring one suitcase, I'm gonna nest a bag in it, and I'm also gonna have my personal item, which of course has all my most essential valuables. But in addition to that, what I'm also going to bring is a small packing cube, a really tiny packing cube that has a few backup outfits just in case, because you never know when they're gonna lose your bag. So you wanna make sure that in your personal item, you do actually have a few backup outfits just in case. And the cool thing about a compression packing cube is there's two zippers. So basically you can stuff the clothes in and then you can zip it up again, and it's gonna condense it into a really tiny package. So that's what I want, because I just want this to sit in my backpack just in case my clothes don't arrive in my checked suitcase. Now, the thing about Japan in June is I've heard it can be incredibly humid and also potentially rainy. So what I'm looking for are lightweight fabrics that are breathable. So I went on a bit of a linen spree. Another go-to fabric of mine is also merino wool. And actually those are the tried and true items that I'm gonna be packing as my backup cube, just because with merino wool, you don't need to wash it very often. So I'm thinking in a worst case scenario, if my bag was missing for several days, if I have a few merino wool pieces in here, at the very least, I'm going to be able to survive and have clothes for like a week, even if it's just a few items. And speaking of merino wool, this week's video is brought to you by Unbound Merino. They are my go-to Canadian company actually for merino wool products, and they specialize in really versatile, simple garments like this that can be woven super thin. So that way, even though I know it's summer in Japan, it's gonna be hot, it is very breathable. I've worn these tops in summer all over Europe and was completely fine, because not only do they wick moisture and keep you cool, it is super breathable as well. And it is resistant to odor and bacteria, which means you can rewear the same piece for multiple days. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be packing a few different merino wool items and fitting it into this tiny cube. So what I find wild about merino wool is that I genuinely don't know how wool can make products like this skirt. So basically it's shorts on the back and there's this little flap on the front, so it looks very dressy, like a skirt. How this is made out of merino wool, no clue, but that's going in. And another key here is if you're packing like an emergency packing cube, you wanna make sure all the tops will match those bottoms as well, just so then you can mix and match different outfits. You don't feel like you're wearing your exact same emergency outfits all the time. And this is the relaxed V-neck in Merlot, which is my new favorite color of theirs. It's so cute. Another one, just in case, is I'm gonna bring a plain V-neck. So this one is their merino wool V-neck in charcoal. And again, this all matches really well with that skirt. These shorts are also merino wool, wild. I've also got this merino wool black tie dress. Even though it's gonna be really hot and humid, I'm gonna just bring this long sleeve crew neck. You never know, you just never know. And now let's watch the magic. So this is what the cube looks like. I know it's like a few backup outfits, but at this point in here, I basically have clothes for a week. So it is a really good backup. And I am in a bit of a rush, but what you wanna make sure you do here is just be really careful that you're not accidentally zipping the inner layer in with that zipper. Trust the process. All right, and then it condenses really small like this, and then I can just slot it into my backpack or my personal item, and I'll have outfits for the week. So this is definitely something that I recommend you do. Yes, if you want to try merino wool out, be sure to check out Unbound Merino's full collection on their website here, and you can use the code Christina10 for 10% off your first purchase. All right, now let's move on to shoes. So in Japan, I am planning to do a lot of walking. The complicating factor is that it is probably going to rain. So what I did buy this time around was my very first pair of Vessies. So Vessies, in case you haven't heard of them, they're waterproof shoes. They don't look waterproof, but they are. And they are from my hometown of Vancouver, Canada. So I'm very excited to support them. I actually used to live right next door to their head office, so it only felt like a matter of time. So here we go. And because it's hot, I also want a pair of sandals. So this pair of sandals has been with me all around Europe. These are Skechers. I'll link the exact ones in the description. And actually, I love these shoes so much that last year I lost them because I left them in a hotel and I decided to just buy the exact same pair again. So these are also coming. Now we're gonna move on to the different clothes. Just gonna pack everything into the packing cubes and then go from there. My usual strategy is I take one packing cube for tops and then I do one packing cube for bottoms and one for undergarments and things like that. As you can see, I did quite a bit of shopping for this trip, so I'm gonna need to do some snippy snip. Got these tops from Simon's, which is a Canadian department store. As you can tell, I am on a buy Canadian kick, so this always feels so scary to me. Oh, goodbye. So there's quite a few tops that I'm gonna be bringing, as I said. So this one's just a cute yellow summery one. I have that linen top in another color because I really liked it when I tried it on. In terms of fun tops, I also do have these tops that I've bought. And I will say normally I would pack things a little bit more carefully than this, but because I am checking my bag and it doesn't matter as much, I am just kind of like throwing it in because I am in a rush, so that's fun. This is one of those, I think every girl has like a weird top that you're not 100% sure how it goes on. I'll figure it out. That's a future me problem. This square neck top, I've had it with me for like 7 years. I love it. I bought it from like a vegan brand in Germany when I lived there, and it's just, yeah, it's been through a lot. And then kind of another fun but not so practical top. All right, still lots of room for shopping, which is great. And then the next one I'm gonna do is bottoms. So a few things I like to bring, especially for summer travel, longer skirts, just because I feel like they work for a variety of occasions. This black pleated skirt I've had for probably 10 years. It goes on every trip, it's just perfect. I also have a longer green one that I just bought that I really like. 100% cotton as well. So I've also got a little white tennis skirt as well. This one's from Lululemon, and it's got like shorts on the bottom and little pockets. And then just because I'm a dress girl, so I've got my butter yellow dress, and I've also got this light blue dress. All right. And bear in mind, I do also have those emergency tops and bottoms that I'm putting in my personal item as well. So those are 2 packing cubes done. In terms of a rain jacket, yes, it's probably going to be rainy. It is rainy season. I hate wearing rain jackets, but anyways, this is an Arc'teryx one. This is gonna go in the suitcase for emergencies. Hopefully we won't need it, but realistically. Then the next one is going to be undergarments. So you don't need to watch me pack that. So we can do that off camera. Now in terms of tech, one really great thing about Japan is the plugs and outlets are actually the same as in North America, so I don't need a big clunky adapter. In terms of other tech things, I mean, I'm gonna be bringing my straightener, which is dual voltage, luckily. I'm also going to be bringing a tiny fan. It's going to be really hot in Japan, so I've heard little personal fans like this can be really useful. So I'm gonna be bringing one of these. Portable charger, because I'm gonna be out all day. Specific to me things, I think, I'm bringing some oil blotting papers because my face can get really oily when it's hot, as well as dry shampoo because I'm not gonna have the patience, realistically, to wash my hair every single day. And based on my research, there are a few other things that you would ideally want for Japan, but I am planning on buying them there because I love an excuse to shop, but I always like to buy practical things. So some things I'm planning on buying while I'm there include a handkerchief, because apparently a lot of the public bathrooms don't have hand dryers or towels or paper towels for you to use, and a coin purse because cash is still very common in Japan, and apparently they use a ton of yen coins there. So I can't wait to buy a really cute coin purse in Japan, but if you already have one, or if you want one in advance of your trip, definitely bring one. And yeah, I think this is the prep phase done, and I will meet you over at my suitcase to put it all in. Hey, it's me. I set this angle of the camera so low that I have to be down here now. Okay, so just know that I'm here. But as I said before, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this personal item, I'm gonna pack all my packing cubes in here, nest it in this suitcase, and then check this bag so that when I come back, I can potentially check more because I bought more stuff. All right, so pretty easy. This is what I love about packing cubes. You can just slot them in. Everything is nice and organized. My bottoms as well. And this one's my little one that's gonna go into my backpack over there. So that's great. So that's gonna go in there, nested. But as you can see, so anything that's awkward, you can actually fit into these slots, and that works out really well. I've got a bunch of random things I can go in. So item number one, before we do the shoes, I think it makes sense to do a raincoat. I've also got some dry shampoo. I do believe this has to stay with me. I'm gonna put this in my backpack. The charger, however, I'm gonna put in here as well. Just a note for any shoes, you obviously don't want to be putting it directly in your suitcase, so I always like to put it in a waterproof bag. Like I said, they're new, so just throw them in this shoe bag. Now I've got my packing cubes with my undergarments and also my pajamas in here. And in here are socks and underwear, super compressed, got 14 pairs, so one for every night and also some for emergencies. So this is probably gonna go in my backpack as well if it fits, just because you don't wanna be left stranded without emergency underwear. So now that we've nested this bag inside, we still have some extra room on the sides there. So it's a good opportunity to kind of slot things in. All right. I think we can make this work. The sound we like to hear. Miracle, miracle. So proud of myself. Hi, future Christina here. This is incredibly embarrassing to admit, but after I got home, I realized all the things I could have done better. So now this is gonna be a mistakes to avoid when packing for Japan video with all the mistakes that I made so you can learn from them. So the first one is bringing a clamshell suitcase, which is a suitcase that opens like this, which is what I brought. That was definitely a mistake. So in a lot of Japanese hotel rooms, especially in Tokyo, the rooms can be really small. So if you are sharing a room with someone and you have multiple suitcases, you might find it is actually a struggle to have enough space to open up your suitcase if it's one that opens up like this. In contrast, if you have a suitcase that opens from the top, it's going to be way easier because you can just put it on the side. In the future, I think I would definitely go for this style of suitcase over the clamshell just because it is much more efficient in terms of space. Now the next mistake is not packing shoes that you can comfortably walk 20,000 steps in. And I know that sounds like a gross exaggeration, but to be honest with you, my average step count was more than 20,000 throughout my 2 weeks in Japan. And I've heard this is the case for a lot of travelers, so do prepare yourself for a ton of walking. But when it comes to packing the perfect shoes, it's not just about comfort. It's also about other factors like how easy they are to slip on and off. Because when you're in Japan, there are many situations where you may need to take off your shoes, whether you're visiting a temple or a shrine, or even in certain restaurants, they ask you to remove your shoes before you go in. So you want to make sure that whatever shoes you bring are not only comfortable, but also come off really easily. And on a similar note, you want to make sure any socks you bring don't have a ton of holes in them. But very important here as well are shoes that are weather appropriate. So I'm very glad I brought my waterproof shoes. That was very smart. What wasn't smart though is the next mistake, which is very embarrassing for me to admit, and that's not checking the weather before you pack. And I know this sounds so basic, but honestly, I was so stressed out. I had so many deadlines leading up to this trip that packing was definitely an afterthought. I had all this information in my head based on what I'd researched about how June is rainy season, how it's going to be very humid, very hot, that I didn't even think to check the weather forecast before I packed. And guess what? Apparently this June it was unseasonably chilly and it wasn't as hot as I was expecting. And so a lot of the items I packed I didn't even end up using because they were sleeveless tops, summery tops, really short shorts that really didn't fit the vibe or temperature. Especially because a lot of these tops I actually brought as a just in case evening change option. But the reality was we were out sightseeing pretty much all day and me going back to the hotel to change didn't actually happen very often. So a lot of these outfits I brought just in case to be cute for the evenings, I didn't wear. And that brings us to our next mistake, which is packing too many sleeveless tops and shorts. Now again, because I was packing purely based on temperature and the assumption that it was going to be really hot and humid, I didn't really consider things like local customs and fashions, especially because for a lot of places there are no stated dress codes. And so you don't realize until you get there that there are certain types of clothing that you would wear as a tourist that would immediately flag you as a tourist and is stuff that locals probably wouldn't wear. So for instance, culturally, a lot of Japanese people prefer to be covered covered up because they want more protection from the sun. And so generally you're not going to see a lot of tank tops, you're not going to see a lot of short shorts. Instead, you're going to see longer, flowier items in the summer, but always really fashionable, by the way. So if you want to dress up and dress a little cooler, probably do that, because Japanese fashion, like just the average person, always looks really put together. But yes, generally speaking, even on a really hot day, most locals will have their shoulders and their knees covered, and this is something I did not consider when I packed all my sleeveless tops and shorts. Needless to say, my maxi skirts and V-neck tops did a lot of heavy lifting on this trip. Aside from local fashion and norms though, I did also wish I had more covered options for when I was visiting temples and shrines, because again, a lot of these temples and shrines don't have an official dress code, unlike some of the churches in Europe that'll just straight up deny you entry. And nobody really cared that much. I do feel like, generally speaking, people in Japan are very understanding of tourists, and they understand that you're not from their country. And so realistically, nobody's gonna chase you down and yell at you for not wearing sleeves. But I do still wish I knew about this in advance so that I was able to bring more options, or at least knew to bring kind of like a cover up or something, just in case I found a temple or shrine. But yeah, I really wish I knew this, so for next time, I'm definitely not gonna be making that mistake again. Now our next mistake is forgetting some of these small essentials, and there's a ton of them, so I'm just kind of grouping them all together. The first one is a portable charger. You are going to be using your phone constantly when you're in Japan, so you want to make sure you have a way to recharge your phone on the go, because realistically, you're not going to be going back to the hotel constantly to charge things up. I would also bring a good passport cover, or at least a Ziploc bag, to keep your passport safe, because legally you are required to carry around your passport in Japan. Whether or not they check is another story, but legally you are supposed to carry it around. And also, if you want to do any tax-free shopping, which, let's be real, you probably are, then you're required to show your passport as well. So you want to make sure your passport is kept safe. And of course, also a small bag to hold garbage in your day bag, because if you haven't heard, in Japan, it is notoriously difficult to find public trash cans. So a lot of the time, if you buy food, for instance, and you consume it, you're not going to be able to find a place very easily to throw away your trash. So oftentimes you are just carrying your trash around. So you are going to want a way to separate that trash from the other items in your day bag. So bring a few big plastic bags just in case. And if you forget, don't worry, any convenience store will have tons of them. They'll always offer you a bag when you buy anything. Another huge mistake you want to avoid is forgetting to bring any over-the-counter medicine that you might need. Like in my case, allergy pills. I ended up having to go to a pharmacy to try to get allergy pills, and not only were they quite expensive, they really didn't work as well as the stuff I was using at home. So I would really recommend, if there's any tried and true medicines that you tend to take, definitely bring some, but double check that they are going to be allowed. There are some common North American medications that aren't actually allowed in Japan, so always double check. Another big mistake that I was super guilty of is assuming I'll just buy whatever I need when I get there. So listen, I understand you want to go shopping in Japan, but as a general rule, if there's anything you think you might need within the first 24 or 48 hours of your trip, just bring it with you. So if it's stuff like deodorant, if it's stuff like sunscreen, mosquito spray, whatever it is that you think you'll need immediately, just bring it with you, because when you arrive in Japan, you're going to be overwhelmed, you're going to be overstimulated, and probably the last thing you want to do is be like, oh, where can I go buy mosquito spray now? Or where can I buy socks? You know, it just kind of kills the vibe a little bit. So save yourself the trouble. Anything you need in the first 24, 48 hours, just bring it with you. Another mistake of mine was bringing vacuum bags. So this was something that happened off camera. I didn't film it because I forgot that I ordered them, and then I just threw them in my bag last minute. So in case you're not familiar with them, vacuum bags are basically bags where you can put stuff in, and then you can use a vacuum or use a pump to suck all the air out to essentially compress it so that it takes up less space. And I really thought this was like the genius hack of a lifetime, but actually when you're using vacuum bags to just condense clothes, honestly, unless it's really big puffy jackets or maybe like stuffed animals or something, it's not going to actually save you that much space. And also at the same time, when you use the vacuum bags, it basically condenses everything into a super tight brick, so that creates a bunch of dead space in your suitcase where you can't really like fit things around. Maybe it did save a tiny bit of space, but it wasn't nearly the game changer that I thought it would be. So it's really not the end of the world if you don't bring vacuum bags. Another mistake that I luckily didn't make is forgetting your own antiperspirant or deodorant. So if you have a go-to brand that you like to use, make sure you bring some with you, because the odds of you finding your exact brand in Japan is not super high. The selection is a lot smaller, and also the prices tend to be quite expensive as well. So definitely save yourself the grief and bring your own deodorant or antiperspirant, especially because you're going to be sweating a lot when you're walking around. Another mistake, though I don't think it's the end of the world, is forgetting hand sanitizer and also a little hand cloth. In advance of my trip, I read that a lot of public bathrooms in Japan sometimes won't have soap. To be honest with you, I didn't encounter this too much, maybe at like 1 or 2 train stations, so it wasn't as big a deal as I thought, but better safe than sorry. And if you're someone that likes to have dry hands, a lot of public bathrooms in Japan don't have paper towels or hand dryers, so a lot of people will actually carry around their own personal drying hand towels. So if that's a big deal to you, definitely get one for yourself. Though I will say this is probably one of the weirdly most common souvenirs I saw at every shop when I was in Japan, these cute little hand towels. So not the end of the world if you don't bring one. And also another mistake to avoid is packing any strong scents. So in Japan, it is considered actually rude to be wearing strong scents, especially on public transport. But even in some private spaces like certain restaurants, they will discourage you from wearing strong scents because apparently it interferes with the smell of the food and your experience of the food. So if you're bringing your own deodorant, for instance, try to stick to something that's scentless and keep in mind that people don't tend to like strong smells. All right, thanks so much for watching. I hope that was helpful. Be sure to let me know in the comments if there's any more packing mistakes you would avoid specifically for Japan. And be sure to like and subscribe for more travel videos just like this one. I'll see you next time. Bye.